नमस्कार आचार्य।
ओम नमः शिवाय।
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
वन्दे
परम्पराम् ॐ
ओम
सहनावतु
भवतु
वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति 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 Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.
Good
morning. Good morning. So, we are on the first chapter, the third section, and the 10th mantra. So, we will chant it. Please unmute yourself. Indriyabhyah parahyartah
Indriyebhyah parahyartha
arthebhyascha param manah
arthebhyascha param manah
manasastu para buddhi
manasastu para buddhi
बुद्धेर आत्मा महान परः.
buddhiratma mahan parah.
So we have seen a similar verse where
There's 6, I think. Buddhir.
Bhagavad Gita, same. We have seen a similar verse. So arthaha, that is the indriya arthaha, the sense objects. Paraha hi indriya bhiha. So you have to read in, like Urdu from back. Arthaha indriya bhi parahi. The sense objects of the sense organs. The sense objects are superior to the sense organs. Then manaha param arthebhyacha. The mind is superior to sense objects. And buddhihi tu paraha manasaha. The intellect, the buddhi, is superior to the mind. And mahan atma paraha buddhihi. The atma, mahan atma, mahat, is superior to the intellect. So here the Upanishad is talking about the journey of the spiritual seeker. And Shankara writes a very, very, extensive and very, very intense bhashyam here. And the bhashyam is very important. So I'll just give you a gist. We are not going into the Sanskrit of the bhashyam. We'll just give the gist of the bhashyam. So Shankara in his commentary says that normally all of us think that the gunas, the attributes, color, form, etc., they belong to the object itself. You agree? When we say this is a rose, we think the shape of the rose, the form of the rose, and the color of the rose belongs to this rose itself. That is the normal understanding. But Shankara says, if you look at the Vedantic teaching, the gunas, the attributes, are not actually the attributes of the gross object, of the sthula mahabhutani. Because the rose is sthula mahabhutani, right? The gross object after panchikarana. And therefore we think that the color of the rose, the red color and the form belongs to the post panchikaranam 5 elements which form the rose. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay, that is the normal understanding. That the rose, which is the post Panchikaranam 5 elements, composed of the post Panchikaranam 5 elements, that object called the rose, the attributes of color and form belong to that gross object, post Panchikaranam rose. But Shankara says no. Vedanta says that the gunas, they belong to the Tanmatras. What are Tanmatras?
Prior Panchikaranam, the subtle.
Tanmatras are the subtle five elements before the Panchikaranam,
Prior Panchikaranam.
right? Prior to Panchikaranam. And therefore, Shankara says, Vedanta says the gunas actually belong to the subtle elements, not to the gross elements. What is happening is that the gunas belonging to subtle elements, they are being experienced by you, they are being manifested in the gross elements alone, right? For example, Shabda, sound. Sound belongs to which guna, which element?
Akasha.
Akasha. Now, Shankara says that this Shabda guna, the sound, is actually belongs to the subtle Akasha, Akasha Tanmatra. But since the subtle elements are not graspable by the sense organs, you are able to grasp that sound only in Sthula Akasha, post Panchikaranam Akasha. So, what is actually being said that what you are perceiving when you say I am seeing the rose, right? You are seeing the form of the rose. But Shankara says that because that form actually belongs to subtle elements, what you are seeing, you are never actually seeing the rose, but you are only seeing the red color, which is the property of the subtle element. The understanding is very, very, very subtle understanding. You never perceive any substance at all. There is no such thing as a substance which you can perceive. Why? Because your sense organs, what is the field of what they call uh, operation of the sense organs? What, for example, is the field of operation of the eyes?
Rupa.
Ju-
Rupa
Rupa.
and
Jagat.
Color.
Jagat.
color. Color and form only the eyes can see. So when you say I am seeing the rose, you are not seeing an object called the rose. You are only seeing the property, the color of the rose, the red color, which actually belongs to the subtle rose, subtle elements. Therefore, the word artha, which so far we have been translating in Bhagavad Gita also, Indriya artha, we translate as what? The object of the Indriyas, the sense object. So Shankara makes a very subtle point here. When you say artha, Indriya artha, sense object or object of the senses, you are not talking about the object rose, but you are talking about the gunas of that object alone or substance alone. So whenever you say this rose is the object of my eyes, what you're actually saying is the red color is the object of my eyes. The guna of the substance alone is the object of your sense organs. Are we understanding?
Acharya ji, besides the color, it's also the shape of the rose.
Shape of the rose also. So you have the form as well as the color are the objects of your eyes. Your
Also
eye
the
can see the
fragrance.
fragrance is not the object of your eye.
Yeah, not for the eye, but there is another
Yeah, the
artha.
fragrance, the touch. So there are. I'm talking about the eyes for simplicity's sake. But your eyes can see, your hands can touch the texture of the rose. Your nose can smell the fragrance of the rose. You can extend this argument. Whenever you say this, I'm smelling the rose. You are not smelling the object. You are smelling the fragrance which belongs to the tanmatra alone. And therefore, the conclusion is that all the sense objects are actually the subtle elements, the tanmatras, manifesting as the five gunas in the sthula bhutani. in the gross objects. Therefore, what is the conclusion? You think that your sense organs are experiencing the sthula mahabhutani, but actually what? They're experiencing the sukshma mahabhutani alone. It's very important to understand this. Okay.
Can you just repeat that last sentence, please?
Since the since we are saying that you are only experiencing the attributes of the subtle elements. For example, when you see the red rose, the red color doesn't belong to the post Panchikaranam rose. The red color belongs to the pre Panchikaranam subtle elements. And therefore, while you think that your eyes are seeing the gross rose, the gross element rose, actually your eyes are seeing only the subtle elements only. You are experiencing the subtle elements which are manifesting in the gross elements.
Ravi, may I say something?
Please, Dr.
See, what happens is, yes, we are perceiving the subtle part as displayed by the gross thing. But there is one more thing that is happening. There's an emotional tag that gets attached to the whatever the color, form, smell, etc., and that gets added to our subtle impression also.
That's very true. That's a very good observation. Yes.
So our experience is not only the form, color, but there's an emotion that gets also experienced by us whenever we see something,
Yeah.
except the first time.
Correct. The only thing is that the emotional experience is not part of the sense organs. It's part of the mind.
Yeah, but the experience is not just the form and color.
Experiences, yeah, correct. I'm not disputing that, but we are talking about the sense organ experience.
Okay.
So that
Acharya ji,
partial, yeah.
that experience is also influenced by our raga, dvesha.
Raga Dvesha doesn't influence the experience. Your sense organs will show you what is in front. Your mental reaction to that is different. If it's a rose, you might like it, or you might dislike a rose. So Raga Dvesha again is part of the Antakarana.
Yes,
So, Acharya, sorry, go ahead.
yes, but it's also an experience. The raga is
No, it
there.
is you're making the same point that Natarajan made. Any experience of any object can have a perceptual part of it, which is dictated by your sense organs, and can have an emotional part of it, which takes place in Antakaran. So we
Ji.
are not discussing the Antakaranam at all. We are discussing only the Indriyas, the sense organs. So what Shankara is saying that ultimately through your any sense organ, you are not experiencing Sthula Mahabhutani, you are experiencing Sukshma Mahabhutani, which is manifesting in the Sthula Mahabhutani.
So,
Why
Acharya,
yeah,
when a rose is put in front of me,
yes,
as we learned before, the rose vritti forms and we recognize it as rose.
yes.
So, that recognition part is
Again, you're going
because
back
of
to
the
the
Sukshma.
intellectual part of it. I am talking only about sense organs. What is your eye perceiving? Shankara's argument is only on that. Why is that so? Because we're talking about a verse which says, Indriyabhya param hyartha. So that argument he is giving here, right? So he says, I'm not disputing that you have a vritti, which the process of recognition is not what is being discussed. What is it that your eyes are seeing, right? What is actually the object of your sense organs? Shankara is saying that you think that the object of your sense organs is Sthula Bhutani. Actually, it is Sukshma Bhutani alone. And therefore, any artha, sense objects, the word sense object, which today, until today, you thought of as pancha sthula mahabhutani, has to be really understood as pancha sukshma mahabhutani. Why does he say that? If the artha is the product, what is the karanam for that artha? For that, what is, if you are saying that the rose is the product which you are seeing, what is the karyam for the rose? The indriyas are seeing the rose, right? So here, since you are saying that Sukshma Bhutani is actually being seen by the Indriyas, what he's saying is that Indriyas will be the product and the sense objects will be the cause. The sense objects are the cause for the Indriyas seeing the sense organs. And therefore, sense objects are the Karanam, Indriyas are the Karyam. It's a very, complex explanation. What is he trying to say? Because we are saying it is because the sense objects are there that the indriyas are able to perceive them. Right? Therefore, sense objects are the karanam, the indriyas are the karyam. Sense objects are the cause, the indriya are the product. And therefore, he comes to his conclusion here. Which is more subtle, the cause or the product? It is always the cause which is more subtle. And since he is saying sense objects are the cause, therefore sense objects must be more subtle than the indriyas. This is, he's trying to explain. Otherwise, when you, the normal course, when you say that, you say indriyas are seeing the sense objects, therefore indriyas are more subtle. But he's saying no. He's saying here the sense objects are more subtle than the indriyas because sense objects are the karanam, while indriyas are the karya. And therefore, when you say mind, the mind refers to the Sukshma Pancha Mahabhutani, because of which actually are the Karanam for the mind. Because mind is born from the Sukshma Mahabhutani. Therefore, Sukshma Mahabhutani are the Karanam for the mind. Therefore, in Arthas, sense objects are the Karanam for the Indriyas, and the Indriyas are the Karanam for the mind is the Karanam for the Sukshma Panchabhutani is the Karanam for the mind. And therefore, Manaha, the mind, is the subtlest of the four. Therefore, there are two Sukshma Bhutanis which he's talking about. That Sukshma Bhutani, which is the Karanam for the mind, and that Sukshma Bhutani, which is the Karanam for the Indriyas. It's a very, very subtle little, explanation. The Pancha Sukshma Mahabhutani itself is dividing. There is one aspect of the subtle elements, which is the Karanam for the mind. And there is one aspect of subtle elements, which is the Karanam for the Indriyas. And therefore, he's saying that that aspect of the subtle elements, which is responsible for the mind, is more subtle than that aspect of the subtle elements, which is responsible for the indriyas. It's a very complex explanation. And this superiority is expressed in three ways. Sukshma, which is subtle, Mahantascha, which means infinite, so all pervading, as Pratyek Atma, close to the inner self. This is the explanation of Shankara gives. It's a very complex understanding. Okay, so because of this complexity of this particular explanation, we can look at Lord Krishna's interpretation, which is what in the third chapter of BG. Indriyani paranyahu, indriyabhyah param manaha, manasastu para buddhi. Parabuddhihi, buddhehe parasastu saha. Where he said that sense organs are superior to sense objects. Intellect is superior to mind, and the Atma is superior to intellect. It's a very simple explanation, where he did not introduce this concept, the unnecessary complication of sense objects. Are you all thoroughly confused?
Acharya ji, but Krishna said the sense organs are superior to the sense objects.
That is the simple explanation. But by introducing the Artha, Shankaracharya has complicated it, but it is necessary for us to understand this idea also. Let me give an example. The subtle elements create the mind. Okay? Or the mind is born from subtle elements, Tattvabodha. And this mind is capable of analyzing pros and cons, which we call what in Tattvabodha? Sankalpa Vikalpaha. Therefore, the process of analyzing is the attribute of the mind which is created by subtle elements. But the same subtle elements create the sense organs. What is the function of sense organs? To reveal sense objects. You see what he's getting at? Five subtle elements. They create two things. One is the mind and one is the sense organs. The activity of the mind is analyzing pros and cons, sankalpa, vikalpa. The activity of the sense organs is revealing objects, which is the superior activity.
That of the mind. And also the sense, the indriyas perceive only one aspect, like shabda or sparsha or rupa or rasa gandha, and the mind perceives all of them in a coordinated manner.
Right, but we are talking about the sense organs as such. So if you're looking at one object, all the sense organs can come into play, but their function is only to reveal. The analysis can be done only by the mind. So which is superior? The mind is
Obviously, the
superior.
mind.
So this is exactly what Shankara said in all that complex language, that subtle elements create two things. One is the mind and one is the sense organs. So that part of the subtle elements which creates the mind is superior to that part of subtle elements which create the sense organs. For example, Indriyas will report that you have, rasagulla in front of you. The mind has to weigh the pros and cons of eating that rasagulla. Should I eat or not? Therefore, mind is superior. In that very complex explanation of Shankaracharya's, this is the simple explanation.
Raviji, can I ask something?
Please.
My understanding up to now is that the mind, and namely the vrittis, are a product of the senses. It's based on our experiences. All the thoughts we have are based on our experiences, which is the sense organs, what our sense organs have fed into the mind. And then that information is processed, and that becomes the mind. Without the senses, there is no mind. There is no vrittis, because all vrittis are based on the five perceptions. So that's not an independent thing. My understanding is the mind is dependent on the sense organs. Without the sense organs, there will be no mind.
Mind is the coordinator for the sense organs. You're right.
Yeah.
There is no function for the mind without the sense organs being there.
But which came first, the function or the experiences? Are they separate, or are they?
No, you look at
Surely they.
Tattvabodha. What does
Ravi,
Tattvabodha say? We have to look at the Shastra, what it says.
Okay, I'm not sure what the Shastra is
The
saying.
mind, anybody wants to explain how the mind is formed according to Tattvabodha?
And the sattvika aspect of all the panchama.
Yeah. And the sense organs?
Sattvic. portion of individual sukshma
Exactly.
hota hai.
Yes.
So that is why, because the sense organs are formed from individual sattvic portion, while the mind is formed from the consolidated sattvic portion, the mind is said to be superior. You cannot say which came first,
Mm.
because the whole thing was created together. When you are
Mm.
born, everything is created. Here is only question of which is superior in terms of function.
Yeah, that's true. Function of the mind is obviously more superior.
So that's what the idea is, and that's what the particular verse is. So see, when we as Jivatmas, we have two ways of going. We can go out in the karma marga. If you are going towards anatma, you're taking the karma marga. But if you are going towards paramatma, it is the inner marga, it is the jnana marga. And therefore, this mantra is actually talking about the inward journey, which is in the form of understanding. And therefore, the understanding is always from gross to subtle, and from subtle to more subtle, because finally the intellect has to reach Nirguna Brahma, which is the subtlest and the most abstract principle. And therefore, the idea is that, according to this verse also, the idea is that your intellect should be subject to sadhana to make it more and more
Mm.
capable of appreciating more and more abstract things, to make it more and more sensitive. So, for example, you have something called Panchabhuta Dhyana. You first meditate on Prithvi, the earth. And then once you are able to meditate properly, then you go to Jala Dhyanam, water, Agni Dhyanam, Vayu Dhyanam, and then Akasha Dhyanam. So from gross to subtle. This is what we call, in Vedanta, we call it Arundhati Nyaya, moving from the gross to subtle. Another method which we have already seen is Panchakosha Viveka. We saw it in Taittiriya Upanishad, right? So in those mantras also, you will find that journey is from Annamaya gross to Pranamaya less gross to Manomaya less gross to Vijnanamaya less gross. In Vijnanamaya, you try to eliminate the thought itself. The resultant lack of thought, the blankness, is what is the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the nothing but the other four koshas in its potential state. And then if you ask, how do I know this blankness? What is it, that principle which makes me know this blankness? That principle is the consciousness principle. So this is Panchakosha Viveka, which we saw in Taittiriya. And that is what here he is saying. If you look at it, here he is saying, Indriya Bihaha. First, focus on your sense organs. So this is actually Panchakosha Viveka only. Indriya Bihaha. First, focus on your sense organs. Consider that you are the sense organs. I am sense organs. Let us, I am the Indriyas. Then meditate upon it and find out parahi arthaha. This is more abstract. The sense of objects are more abstract. So here you have to take what is the understanding given by Shankaracharya. The sense objects are more abstract than the sense organs, because the sense objects entered my mind as thoughts. And then arthebhyascha param manaha, subtler than the thought of the sense organs in my mind, is the mind itself, which is the repository of all the thoughts. And what controls the mind? Manasastu para buddhi. The Vijnanamaya Kosha is subtler than the mind. Buddhi is subtler than the mind. And buddhehe atma mahan paraha. For from the buddhi, the individual intellect, mahan paraha is Hiranyagarbha, mahat, the total intellect. So that last line has to be understood that in the Jivatma, the individual intellect is the most powerful among all the sense organs, among all the other organs. But from the Samashti angle, Hiranyagarbha, the Samashti Buddhi, is more powerful than the individual Buddhi. The purpose of this meditation is to make my mind move from the small indriyas upwards to more and more subtle ideas, and finally to the biggest I, that is Hiranyagarbha. This is the meditation which this particular mantra is telling us. And we must not forget that we are actually in the chariot example, right? So in the chariot example, how do you apply this? The intellect can control the mind, and therefore intellect is superior to the mind. What is the function of the mind? Thinking of various options. That is samshaya atmaka. We saw in Tattva. Is this or this? Should I do this or should I do that? That is function of the mind. When the intellect comes in and takes a decision, then only that vacillation of the mind stops. Therefore, intellect is superior to mind. A decision removes doubts, right? And then you say, Buddhiratma Mahan Paraha. Mahanatma, the Hiranyagarbha, is of course superior to the individual intellect also. Therefore, in my meditation, I have to move backwards from the gross objects, which are the objects of my senses. I go backwards till I arrive at Samashti Manaha, which is Hiranyagarbha. This is a this is the words meant for Panchakosha type of meditation. Okay,
Thank you.
right. Then let's look at the 11th mantra, which we'll chant. Please unmute yourself. Mahatah Paramavyaktam
Mamata
Mahataः
param vyaktam
परमव्यक्तम्
Avyaktat Purushah Paraha
अव्यक्तात्
avyakta
पुरुषः
purusha
पुरुषः परः
paraha
Pushanna Param Kinchit
purushana
पुरुषान्
param
न परं
kinchit
किञ्चित्
Sa Kashta Sa Paragati.
सा
sakashta
काष्ठा सा
sa
परगतिः
paragati.
So we continue. Avyaktam. Avyaktam is the unmanifest. Param Mahataha is superior to Mahat Hiranyagarbha. Right? What is Avyaktam?
Maya,
Maya,
In Tattva terms, you are saying
Maya.
Hiranyagarbha. So what term should you
Antaryam,
use? Antaryami. So Avyaktam, the Antaryami, which is what? The universal Karana Shariram. Hiranyagarbha is what? Universal Sukshma Shariram.
Sukshma Shariram.
Samashti Sukshma Shariram. So here he is saying Avyaktam, the Samashti Karana Shariram, is superior to Samashti Sukshma Shariram. What is another name for Samashti Karana Shariram? Antaryami. What is another name for Antaryami?
ईश्वर
Ishvara. Okay.
Ishvara.
Remember the Antaryami is Ishvara. So what he is saying, Avyaktam, that is Ishvara, Mahataf Param is superior to Hiranyagarbha. So Ishvara is superior to Lord Brahmaji in Puranic terms. Then Purushaha, Avyaktat Paraha. Purushaha is superior to Taryami also. Purusha is what over here? Brahman, Atma.
Brahman.
Therefore, Atma is superior to Antaryami, and Purushat Param na Kinchtaha. There is nothing superior to Purusha, the Atma. And Sa Kashta. Kashta means the highest point. Sa Kashta, that is the highest point in this journey. So Paragatihi, that is the superior, most superior goal. This is the same meditation being continued, where you have started from the sense objects And now he says you have to reach Atma. You claim yourself first as I am the sense object. I am the rose you started with. Then you went backwards and backwards and backwards, went through all the Panchakoshas, went through Samashti, Hiranyagarbha, went through Samashti, Antaryami, and now you're saying Atma. That Atma I have. So some technical terms you should remember. Mahataf Param means Avyaktam. Avyaktam means Samashti Karana Shariram, also called Maya. And Shankara defines Avyaktam as the seed cause for the entire universe. When you say entire creation, remember you are including Hiranyagarbha or Brahmaji. So Avyaktam is Antaryami, which is the cause for Hiranyagarbha also. And therefore it is Param Mahataha, superior to Hiranyagarbha. Why do you say that? Because Avyakta Maya, that is Antaryami, contains not only the current universe, contains all the past and future universes also. Right? So you have to go from Hiranyagarbha to Avyakta. That is why, as a Vedantic student, if you are interested in astronomy, it's useful to expand the limits of your mind. Because one of the problems in understanding is that mind is limited in many ways. And if you can start to look at the universe itself, you'll find that your planet, the Earth, is one small little dot in the Milky Way, right? Milky Way is the galaxy. There are millions of stars in your galaxy, but there are millions of galaxies in the universe. That kind of thinking helps you to expand your mind. And therefore, if you want to go from Hiranyagarbha, Avyaktam, and Taryami, that is the sort of path you should take. Expand your mind first. Ensure that mind is able to be comfortable with whatever is there. The idea that I am the entire universe and I am the cause of the universe, that takes a lot of expansion of mind. So he says, Avyakta Purusha Paraha, there is something superior to Maya, and that is the consciousness principle, which we call Purushaha or Atma. And Purushat Kinchit Na Paramasti. There is nothing superior to Atma. Once you are comfortable with claiming yourself as Purushaha, the Atma, your journey is complete. So he says, Sa Kashtaha. This is the final boundary. Sa Paragatihi. This is the highest destination, highest Purushartha called moksha. So you can ask a question here. Gatihi means travel. What is the answer? How should you understand Gati? If it is travel and you are achieving moksha through travel, then moksha is being reached at some point of time. Therefore, it's not permanent. So Gatihi has to be understood as what? Not as travel,
As understanding.
as understanding. And Shankara says, Gatihi you take as avagatihi. Avagati means travel. Avagatihi means knowledge, understanding. So Gatihi has to be taken as avagatihi. And therefore, you should remember that if any destination is reached by travel, either in space or in time, that destination fulfills two conditions. One is it is anatma, and two is a very important idea. What is that?
It is not Atma.
No, I'll repeat again.
Yeah.
If any destination has to be reached by travel, that travel can be either space-wise or time-wise. The first thing is it is Atma, Mithya. Second thing is what? A very important idea. There it is.
It is temporary.
It is away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Either
Apart from
space-wise
you.
or time-wise, it is away from you. And Shankara comments, this Atma is you yourself. So it is not away from you. How can you reach through travel? in space or time. Okay. So after this, what is to be done? And this is mentioned in the next mantra, which we will chant. So please unmute yourself. एष सर्वेषु भूतेषु
एष
सर्वेषु
सर्वेषु
भूतेषु
भूतेषु
गूढोत्मा न प्रकाशते
गूढोत्थान
प्रकाशते
प्रकाशते
दृश्यते त्वज्ञया बुद्धिया
दृश्यते
दृश्यते
त्वया
दृश्यते
बुद्ध्या
बुद्धया
सूक्ष्मया सूक्ष्मदर्शिभिः
मोक्षमया
सूक्ष्मया
सूक्ष्मदर्शिभिः
In a very, very important mantra. Sarvabhuteshu Gudaha. Eshaha Atma. So Eshaha Atma. You have to break it up. Gudaha Atma is to broken up. So Eshaha Atma. Sarvabhuteshu Gudaha. Esha Atma. This Atma. Sarvabhuteshu Gudaha. Being hidden in all beings. The Atma is hidden in all beings and therefore na prakashate. It is not evident at all. But drishyate, it can be seen. Sukshma darshibihi, by people whose vision is very subtle. And that subtle vision came how? Agrayaya sukshma buddhaya. Because they have a sharp, subtle intellect. Those people can see this Atma. So the journey of the spiritual seeker is being talked about. This journey is not a small, short journey. It's a long process, and at each station in this journey, at each stage of this journey, one needs to completely assimilate the knowledge. Therefore, you have to remain in this stage for a long time to assimilate the jnanam before moving on. So he says, Eshaha Atma. This Atma, Sarvabhuteshu, is present in all living beings. How will you understand that? Present as what? Atma is present in me as what?
Consciousness.
As the Chaitanya Tattvam, as the consciousness principle. At the same time, it is hidden. Why is it hidden?
avidya.
Because how many times do you recognize the consciousness principle in yourself? You don't, because you are distracted at every moment by anatma. Your family, your work, your politics, your movies. Whole time your mind is focused outwards. Where is the time for the mind to look inwards? Therefore, Godaha. And that is
Acharya,
why,
because all the sense organs are perceiving all the other sense objects instead of perceiving this consciousness. No, the focus is not on the consciousness.
exactly, your sense organs are focusing outwards. Therefore, your mind is focusing outwards because sense organs are focused outwards. Right? And therefore, mind doesn't have time to go inwards. And therefore, Gudaha. You are distracted by the world. Therefore, Gudaha. That is why Maya is called what? Mohini. Mohini, Mohitam Abhijanati. The one who deludes you, that is Maya. So Atma is actually not covered, but na prakashate. You do not recognize it and therefore fail to claim that I am this Atma, and you think that this body is you. Right? This is the plight of the normal person. Therefore, he says, Agrayaya Sukshma Buddhya Drishyate. This Atma can be understood only by a specially trained intellect, with a very sharp intellect. Agrayaya. And trained by what? By all the sadhanas we are doing. Karma yoga, upasana yoga, all these we should do, right? We should not confine You should expand your mind, like as you said, by doing that meditation on the five gross elements, starting from Prithvi and ending up with Akasha. You have to expand your mind. Otherwise, what will happen? I will confine Ishvara to my Ishtadevata. As long as I'm confining Ishvara to Rama, Krishna, Shivalingam, remember that Ishtadevata Dhyanam is very good for focus, concentration. But Ishtadevata Dhyanam does not expand your mind. And that's why Gita talked about Vishwarupa Ishvara. You have to turn from Ekarupa Ishvara to Vishwarupa Ishvara. And from Vishwarupeshwara, after expanding your mind, you have to turn to the formless Ishvara. Arupa Chaitanya Dhyana, formless consciousness principle. This is the training. And through this training, the intellect becomes Acharaya, very sharp, and Sukshmaya, sensitive, capable of understanding abstract principles, because consciousness is the most abstract principle. And we should never look for Atma. So from blankness to consciousness is shifting attention from one object to the subject. Normally, you shift attention from object to object. But once you arrive at Anandamaya Kosha, the blankness you say, that blankness for you is an object, right? Because it's an object of your consciousness. From that blankness, there is no other object to shift your mind, to shift your attention to. But you have to shift attention to that object, which is the blankness, to the very subject, which is the consciousness principle. So kosha to kosha shifting, Anandamaya kosha, now your Annamaya kosha, the Pranamaya kosha, the Vijnanamaya kosha, the shifting from object to object. But from Anandamaya kosha to shift to the witness of the Anandamaya kosha is shifting from Anandamaya kosha, which is an object, to Atma, which is the subject. So claiming that witness consciousness as myself, as I, the Sakshi, that is the final part of the spiritual journey. And therefore, we so many things, so many meditations are there. You can meditate on space, you can meditate on light, a mind which can appreciate unlimited boundaries. That mind can appreciate Atma. And therefore, we talk about the meditation on Akasha and the meditation upon light. All these are preparatory sadhanas for expanding your mind. So here again, if you look at the words, the first line is na prakashate. How can you say that the self-revealing Atma na prakashate? Because you cannot say it because the Shruti is saying it. How will you understand when it says that this Atma na prakashate is not?
It it doesn't do any action on its own. It is not
No,
karta or
prakashate means
bhokta.
does not shine.
Yeah. So
You can't say that because we are saying self-revealing. The self-revealing is self-shining Atma. How can you say na prakashate?
The
Again,
mind covered with Ajnanam doesn't look into that.
very good. So, unrefined mind, which means the mind not having sadhana chatushta sampanna, sampati, that mind, for that mind, the Atma cannot be known. Therefore, this naprakashate is relating to Esha Sarva Bhuteshu Gudatma, that Atma which is present in all the minds is not available for recognition to a mind which is not prepared. And that is why the second line says, Drishyate Tvagraya Buddhya, the one who has refined his intellect. So the first line refers to the second quarter of the first line refers to the unrefined intellect. The second line refers to the person who has refined his intellect. Any questions? All very, very beautiful verses. Let us, we have enough time for one more verse, mantra. Mantra number 13. Yached vang manasi prajnah.
यच्छेद्वान् मनसि प्राज्ञः
Tadyached jnana atmani.
तदच्छेत् ज्ञान
तद्यच्छेज्ञानात्मनि
आत्मनि
Jnanam atmani mahati yached.
ज्ञानमात्मनि महति
ज्ञानमात्मनि
आत्मनि
महति
महति
निश्चेत्
नियच्छेत्
Tadyached chanta atmani.
तद्यच्छेच्छान्त
तदच्छेत्ताम्
शान्त
आत्मनि
आत्मनि
आत्मनि.
So, what should you do? That is being mentioned here. Prajna. So prajna is not prajna, okay? Prajna is the person who is got prajna, the discriminative one. Okay. Yachet. Yachet means should resolve. Vak manasaha. The speech should be resolved into the mind. And yachet tat. So tat here is that mind. He should resolve that mind atmani jnane into the intellect and niyachet jnanam. He should resolve the intellect mahati atmani into mahat hiranyagarbha and then yat tat. He should resolve that hiranyagarbha shante atmani into the peaceful atma where there is no disturbance, which is antaryami or Easwaran. So remember here we are talking about the person who has completed the uh, Shravanam and Mananam. He has got Jnanam. How do you convert that Jnanam into stable Jnanam, into Jnana Nishtha? So that mantra, this mantra talks about that. So Prajnaha, right? This is not the Prajna of which other Prajna do you know?
the Karana.
Yes. So that is Prakarshena Agnyaha, specifically ignorant. That's we are not talking about that. This Prajnaha is Viveki, the Vedantic student who has completed Shravanam and Maranam and is now entering to Nididhyasana. That means he has knowledge. He has undoubted knowledge that he is Brahman. Why does he go into Nididhyasanam? Because his habitual thinking patterns of remaining in the triangular format have not gone. He wants to get out of it. Because of Shravanam and Maranam, remember, consciously he can be in the binary format. But unconsciously, when he is not consciously thinking, he might relapse into the triangular format. And therefore, this Nididhyasanam is necessary to get out of those habitual thinking patterns. So, what are the conditions? First, he should have Atma, Anatma, Vivekaha. Discrimination between Atma and Anatma. Secondly, he should have learned to say that I am the Atma, claim himself as the Atma. And this is possible only when I remove the obstacles which obstruct this claim. And this is crossing over the five koshas because your obstacle is the identification with each of the five koshas. Therefore, a person who says, I am Atma, has come from Anandamaya to Pranamaya to Manomaya to Vijnanamaya to Anandamaya. And now he is claiming himself as Atma. He has crossed the five koshas. And Ahankara, remember, means Abhimana. Abhimana means claiming the body as myself. And therefore, as long as these five koshas are strongly identified with, you have not claimed yourself. And therefore, through this, dropping these five abhimanas, Upanishad says now you have to practice dhyanam. And in each dhyanam, you have to get rid of all these abhimanas. See, there are five anatmas. What are they? Five basic anatmas: body, mind, family, property, and profession. These are five anatmas said to be. And you have, if you think, you will know that you have strong identification with all these. And therefore, the Shruti says that you have to practice meditation. And in each meditation, you have to practice disowning these koshas. So there is a word called pravilapanam in Sanskrit. Pravilapanam in English, we are translating as resolving. And therefore, in each meditation, you are resolving that particular kosha. Whoever you have, how to resolve? If I'm, and the first kosha, and I'm saying this body is me, what do I mean by pravilapana? You will say this body is given to me by Vishwarupa Ishvara, and therefore I'm handing over this body to Vishwarupa. It is no longer mine. You disclaim yourself. Similarly, you will say that no other living being, children, family members, friends, teachers, they are yours. They have always existed, just like us, right? So remember that this body of yours is not connected to the others. We have to basically disown this body as not being mine. And only through this Panchakosha disowning can we come to Atman. How do I know that I've handed over my body to Ishvara or I've handed over my children to Ishvara? What is the indicator that I have been successful in handing over my children to Ishvara, or my wife to Ishvara, or my friends to Ishvara, or my husband to Ishvara? How will you know?
Less of worries
Mm.
about all these.
Yes, your need to maintain control of all this will weaken. And that will happen when you understand that you are not really a controller of anything. You're only a contributor to this entire life's journey. You do what you can. I'm not saying that you be indifferent. If somebody is sick, you look after. You do what you can. But do not expect to control anything because control is not in your hands. All that is in your hands is that to do something. And this we saw. Karmanya adhikarasti. The same idea over here. When you reduce the need to control, anxiety will come down. So this reduction of anxiety is the indication that you are diluting mamakara and ahankara. This is called sharanagati. You start from your external possessions, then to your family, then to mamakara, and finally to ahankara. So that is what he's saying. Yachet, vak, manasi, pragya. So pragya is the Viveki, the Vedantic student who has understood the Upanishad. Vak, manasi, yachet. Vak represents the tongue, which is a general term for all the sense organs. Therefore, you should resolve the sense organs by shifting the identification from the sense organs to the mind. You move from the Vishwa I to Tayasa I to Pragnya I. This Pragnya is different. Okay, there are two Pragnyas. The Pragnya is the Vedantic student also. Pragnya I is the Vishwa Tejasa Pragnya. And that Pragnya is resolved finally into Brahman. So that Jnana Atmani Nichched. Jnana Atmani is Vijnanamaya Kosha. Thus from Manomaya you have to come to Vijnanamaya. Jnanam Atmani Mahati Nichched. From Vijnanamaya, individual Vijnanamaya, you have to come to Samashti Vijnanamaya called Hiranyagarbha, Mahat. And that Hiranyagarbha, Shanta Atmani Nishchay. When you come to Atma, what have you missed? In this journey, what have you missed? You have said from sense organs, the body, you come to mind. From mind, you come to the Vishwa Tajasa to Pragya. Then you come to Vijnanamaya Kosha. From Manomaya, come to Vijnanamaya Kosha. And from Vijnanamaya Kosha, you come to Samashti Vijnanamaya Kosha. And from Samashti Vijnanamaya Kosha, you come to Atma. What is it that you have missed?
Virat.
No, Virat is okay. Virat,
Anandamaya.
Anandamaya
you have
Anandamaya
Kosha.
Kosha.
missed Anandamaya. Karna Shariram you have missed. Why? Because entering into Karna Shariram is entering Sushupti Avastha. Nothing can be done there. And therefore, in this mantra, very nicely, he skips that because there is no productive activity over there. And therefore, from Mahat, Hiranyagarbha, the Upanishad says, straight away you need to go to Atma. Therefore, you transcend Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. You have come to Shanta Atma, the Chaitanya Atma, the consciousness principle, which is beyond everything. It is neither Vyashti, the individual, nor Samashti, the total. This is how Panchakosha is to be implemented. And Shankara in his commentary says, in this manner, as taught through all the previous mantras, the entire Anatma Prapancha has to be dissolved. This is a cognitive dissolution only, which means what? The awareness that the existence does not belong to Anatma, but has been borrowed from me. This awareness that the whole universe, the existence of the whole universe, doesn't belong to the universe itself, but has been borrowed from me, the Atma. This is called Pravilapanam. I continue to use the Anatma, but I know that there is no Anatma apart from me. Okay. With this, we'll stop here. Shankara has a few more things to say on this subject, which we will take up in the next class.
Acharya, can I say something? This may be unrelated and I don't know, silly also. Like, we, through all this, understand that we are not even a speck in the universe, But sometimes the like anxieties about what's happening to Hindus in Bangladesh, or it's affecting, like, we understand Sanatan is there, but these anxieties do come. Please address them later on, not now. Just wanted to express what to do about
If you can
these.
raise this in the next class, we'll
Yeah.
after this particular mantra, we'll
Yes.
I'll address the
Yeah.
issue.
Yes. Thank you, Acharya.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for
Om
your
Tat Sat, Om
patience.